Hey everybody, this is David Lally with the Partnership for Research and Education in Plants, and today I'm going to show you how to set up drought conditions for your plants without killing them. Plants are stationary organisms. They can't change the place where they're born, but they can change themselves, including which genes are active. That's why we're going to grow mutant and wild-type plants under drought conditions to see if the mutant responds differently to those drought conditions than the wild-type. Let me show you how to set it up. Most people, when they set up these drought experiments, they add just a little bit of water at a time in order to try to create consistently dry conditions. But that's a pretty risky approach, and let me show you why. I have 140 milliliters of dry soil in this beaker. That volume is the same volume that you'd find in a pot 2.5 inches that you grow your Arabidopsis in, filled to the top with soil. And I'm going to take this graduated cylinder with 25 milliliters of water, and I'm going to pour it in here and show you what happens. So I'm going to pour this water right on top of the soil, and if you watch, you'll see as you can see from this dark line, that 25 milliliters of water only penetrated the top part of the soil. Most of the Arabidopsis roots are going to be down in the bottom of the pot. So basically you're not giving the plants any water at all if you just put a little water on the top of the soil. The way that I like to set up a drought experiment is to start with a fully watered pot of plants and then let them dry out until they're experiencing drought. Then fully water them again, and then repeat. Let them dry out. And you can repeat that process several times. I'm going to show you how to set that up right now. To set up my drought experiment, I'm going to use this balance to tell me how much the pot of plants weighs. I know that water at room temperature weighs 1 gram per milliliter. So if I take a pot 2.5 inches and fill it with soil, when it's completely dry, I know, even with the plants in there, I know it weighs between 25 and 35 grams. So I will show you a time-lapse movie. I'm going to start with a pot of plants that are almost in that drought phase. It's around 40 grams. And then I'll show you what happens when the plant undergoes drought. Here we are at the beginning. And as I said, the pot of Arabidopsis plants, filled right to the top with soil, weighs just under 40 grams, and it's pretty dry. Here we are 7.5 hours later, and the pot of plants weighs around 35 grams. Now if your pots were filled to the top with soil, then the soil is very dry and the plants are in full drought response mode. Notice that there's almost no movement or growth in the plants, but they still look alright. "11 hours later, the plants start wilting. The plant's ability to maintain water pressure is failing. After 15 hours of wilting, the water loss is critical. If I don't water the plants now, their chance of survival is very low. So I'm going to go ahead and water them. They've experienced basically 24 hours since the plants started wilting. Now the plants are fully watered, and in less than an hour you can see that water pressure is fully restored, what we call turgor pressure. In the next 14 hours, you'll see that growth is resumed, and you can also see the little dance that the bolts are doing called nastic movements. Here's the same pot of plants 8 days later, and you can see it's really healthy even though it's experienced an episode of drought. But let's compare it to another pot of plants that didn't experience drought that was planted at the same time. Here's my pot of plants that experienced the drought, and here's the pot of plants that were planted at the same time but didn't experience drought. You can see that the vegetation is much larger in the ones that didn't experience drought, and the bolts are heavier as well, as you can tell from the way they're hanging over. If I was to pick them up and extend them, you'd see that they're a few centimeters taller than the plants that experience the drought. So even though it is, healthy, it isn't as big as the plant that didn't experience drought. So, I hope that's helpful. Good luck creating drought conditions for your Arabidopsis plants, and happy Arabidopsising!